still ask questions even though I'm recording this, okay? So it goes up on the Classroom YouTube page. You know, nobody looks at that but people in the class. If they do, then that's, that wouldn't be what I would do in my free time. Let's put it that way. You know, watching math YouTube videos. But if you do miss class, it'd be helpful. So we're going over equations today. That was on the diagnostic. If it was easy for you, then you'll probably be able to answer a couple of these, and that I welcome, you know, classroom participation. That's just fine, even when we do notes. I had a request to do the evens because of number 10, so we can start there. And then if you have other questions, we'll just do those as well, okay? So number 2, this is actually a proportion. I should have put this one towards the bottom of the worksheet. Has anyone ever done cross multiply? Yeah, okay. Does anyone remember how to do it or want to? Yeah, sure. You want to come up here and do it or on the board either way? She's like, I'm ready. Cool. I sanitize, you know,
Don't
after I
worry.
eat, so.
I'm vaccinated. I'm pretty sure I'm fine.
Oh, and I meant to tell you guys too, I'll try to, you know, stay out of your way, but if you do a problem and you're up here and you're like explaining or walking through it, you don't have to, you know, wear your bad boy. Well, it's bad boy, but you don't have to wear your mask, okay? So when I do notes, I'll usually take it off unless a bunch of students are coming back and forth. I don't want to get in your way.
It's 45, right?
Yeah. So you're gonna do 9 times 5, which is 45. Just cross multiply, and 3 times A. Now, we don't know what A is because it's like a letter, not a number. So you have to leave it 3A. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I do believe you are correct. Yeah, good. And you can just scoot the paper a little bit to the left. Perfect. So looks like, no, it's perfect. It's good. So you crisscross multiply 9 times 5 and 3 times A. No, I see it. And essentially you can go ahead and just divide. I've seen it shown a couple different ways. So I like the way you did it and you went right to the division. And I think that's what you did too, Mac, as well, right? You went right to that. So that's perfect. I've seen other people like write like 45 equals 3A. And then they divide it by 3.
Oh, that's what.
So is that how you did it? Perfect. So that's another way that you can do it. As long as you multiply across and then see what you get on the other side. I'm gonna close out of that so it's not dinging while I'm teaching. So 45 divided by 3, plug it into your calculator and you get 15. Equals A. And we'll do more proportions towards the bottom of the worksheet, but if you're not 100% sure on a problem as we go through, there's a couple options. You can verbalize your question out loud to the class, which is fine. And if that seems a little scary, you can circle the question and we can come back to it as well. But just remember, if you have a question, chances are someone else also has that question. All right, so does anybody have any questions on this one? Number 4, I like to draw a little line when I'm doing equations down the equal sign, just kind of helps keep things organized. So the whole point of solving is we're trying to get the letter by itself, right? So when you look at it, this V is being added to 3, and then it's being divided by 4. So if you want to look at it and say, hey, what's the furthest thing away from the variable? So do you guys think we should get rid of the 4 or the 3 first? What's the furthest thing away? It's a tricky one. This is a really tricky one. Perfect. Get rid of the 4. If you think of this as a 2-story house, right? 4 is hanging out on the bottom floor, and 3 and V are hanging out on the top 4. So we're going to get rid of the 4. What does this bar mean? Do you guys know what that bar means? Division. So the opposite of division is good. So if you struggle with those opposites, this might be a little note that you take for yourself. Multiplication and division are opposites, and addition and subtraction are opposites. So when you work on equations, it's all a game of opposites. So we're going to multiply both sides by 4 with this little dot to indicate multiplication. And when you do that, when it's opposites, they cancel each other out. So think about your age in your head for a second. If you take the age that you are and you divide it by 4, even if it's a decimal, and then you multiply it by 4, you actually get back to your age. So if someone was 28, 28 divided by 4 is 7, right? And 7 times 4 brings you back to 28. So that's how they're opposites. Does that part make sense to you guys? It's a little tricky in the beginning.
Is number 10 a decimal?
They do end up being decimals when you get to number 12, but I think the rest are full numbers. Bless you. Bless you. Don't worry about it. You're good. Do you guys remember the golden rule of equations? So what I do on one side, I got to do to the other. That's a little tricky for some folks to remember. So I need to also multiply this side by 4. So I have 4 times -1. That gets me -4. And now all I have to get rid of is that 3. If it helps, yeah, please use the calculators as well, guys. If it helps, you can put a little box around that V, okay? And that's going to help you to isolate it. So any thoughts on how this 3 can go over to the other side so we can isolate V? Subtract it. Good. You can show that it crosses out. So think of your age again. If someone was 20, if you add 3 to 20, you get 23. If you subtract 3 from 23, you get 20. So what gets you back to the number? Here we go. Anyone know what -4 and then take away another 3 is? Wonderful. And I know if you have Miss Chelsea, Mr. George, some of this stuff's gonna be like, okay, I really remember that. Other people, it might have been a minute since you've seen it, right? Oh, I forgot, I'm going through my problems. I can pick this up. That's great, awesome. So yeah, let's do 6 through 10 as well, and make sure we all get full numbers at number 12. And then if you're confused or in the dark, what I'll do is I'll have those of you ready to work on the worksheet, go ahead and work on that. And those of you that need extra help can go to the examples. I know that well, Jenna had her appointments, so just not sure if anyone else had a friend melt away. Just a couple people. Oh, okay. Any other binders? Just one? Okay. One and done. Not bad. Not bad for the first day, guys. Getting in a routine. It's a groove. All right. So number 6 is a little bit different. So I'm going to give you a little equation cheat sheet or note. When you're solving equations, there's kind of like 4 big steps. All right. So the first step is if there's parentheses, you want to distribute. That's kind of just like the big one. Okay. And then you want to combine. So if there's anything any like terms, you want to combine those. Perfect. So you got your combining, right? Now, instead of 6x squared, because we're not dealing with those decimals or those exponents yet, it's just 6x. Does anybody know why it doesn't have squared? It's tricky. Good. Yeah. When you multiply, you'll have a little squared, which we'll get there. But when you add like terms, think of it as like groceries in your cart. Okay. And X is like a pack of Oreos. So if you have 3 packs of Oreos over here, and then you got 3 packs of Oreos over here, you got 6 packs of Oreos. So you don't have to put a little 2 there. Just 6 packs of Oreos. That's it. Wow, you guys are good at this math game. So what did you do as your next step after you combined like terms? Good. So we're getting those letters to one side. So if you need a little refresher, it's called a variable if it's a letter. So variables to one side. When we start throwing variables in the math, sometimes it can be a little tricky for folks. So what I like to say is, just think of it like a regular number. If I have 6 plus 2, what do I get? 8. Good. Good. You got it. What'd you do for your last step to get 1? Perfect. And I ran out of space. So when that happens, you can just, if you're a big writer like me, just go on to the next problem and write on it there. You can also use like scrap paper too. I have a ton in the back of the room with lines on it, so that can make it nice. All right, you're rocking it. I'm gonna stick a Post-it on that so I have more room. That's a little hint too. If you guys all have Post-its on your table, if you run out of space, just grab yourself a sticky and just like slap it on there, and then you have more space for your problem. But I know a couple people are writing down that last step, so I'll keep that there. Do you guys have any questions? I know Mac was starting to explain number 8. You can do it up here too if you want. You want to? Okay. Do you guys have questions on 6? Let me keep it up there. Okay. There you go. Yeah, it's easier on here because then when the recording people see it, I'll keep 6 feet from you. Do you want me to put it on?
No,
Okay.
it's fine.
So hopefully the purple pen can show on a blue sticky, but see how this one has parentheses? So for this one, you have to distribute. Can you guys see it okay with the blue? Do you want a lighter? Do you want to use the green? Maybe like a lighter color? You got a question? Yeah, of course. I gotcha. But with that, do you guys want a lighter green color maybe? You can go out that way with the key too. I don't think it'll bother her, but do you mind being on that one? Yeah, you can grab it from that side. We can always ask her if it bothers her. I think it's fine. Yeah, I think that'll show up a little better. Perfect. That's awesome. Wonderful. Do you guys all know where to find this little paper? You got yours? Perfect. I got something. Is I put it all in the binder for you guys already, okay? So every day you'll have the unit stuff in there. You got a pencil already? Awesome. Usually we'll just do evens or odds, and then if you need more problems, we do more. That's where I'm at with that. Awesome, good. And if you work like at your own pace a little faster and you ever want to move ahead, that's cool too. Did I leave a paper out of yours? Oh, you just did it already. Of course you did. You're awesome. Very good. Very good. Yeah, you're welcome to work ahead and just check your work with the class. That's awesome. Good, so she distributed, looks great. I see one small thing, and I'm glad that you did this actually, because I like to give everyone an opportunity if you've seen it before. Does anybody see? And I think you did,
I know what I
think you did
did.
it on purpose. Did you do it? Do you want to have them guess what it is?
Yeah.
I think you did it on purpose, just so they could. I'm pretty sure you did it on purpose, so you find it. You guys see a teeny tiny thing? She's trying to trick you. It's on our first line on the green sticky. You see what it is? She caught it. Circle it for you. Yeah. So sometimes on like quizzes, it'll say like, what did this person what did Miss Amanda do wrong in this problem, right? And I get you to think critically that way. So what should it be instead of a 3?
21.
Okay, good. And good job, Mac, for catching that too. That's good. When you catch our own little mistakes like that, that is perfect. That's like part of the learning, right? Very good. And if it looks unfamiliar today, we'll practice a little and I'll check in with you guys. Your first post-it had part of the work on there too, right? Yeah. So you had 301. Oh, okay. So what she does, which I think is really cool, is she switches the stuff with the letters over to the left side of the equation. I don't personally do that when I solve, but some people do. As long as you got 56B and then you got a positive 21, and then you move that 21 over to the other side, you'll have the same answer.
You bring a calculator?
Yeah,
I want to brainstorm.
of course. I like to see these different ways of solving too, so we can compare. And maybe like, somebody likes the way that Mac showed it, or somebody likes the way, I did it. So finding what works for you is important. You all should have a calculator by next week. Even if our number gets a little bigger, if people come starting the rest of the week, we'll have one for everybody.
Can I do number 10?
Perfect. Yeah, maybe leave this one up here so make sure everyone gets in if they have questions. I will say some folks do it, if you want to keep it in, it's a 56B, right? If you want to keep it in the order that it's on the problem already, you can. So this is the same exact way that Mac did hers. It's just keeping it on one side is easier for some folks. So if you've seen it like this, where you keep the letters on the one side, 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 3 is 21. Anyone do it like that? Yeah, so see, different ways. And then you can do the 21 over. You're going to get the same answer. Yeah, go for it. Oh, she's like, I would. What if we do 10 and the other one that's like that? We could do both of them. Nobody's saying we can't do extra too.
That's fine.
56B.
It's 5.
That's fine. Yeah, good. So there's different ways to do your problems. So if you have a different way, as long as you show kind of like the steps for it, I know we were talking, but as long as I see that you're working on it, if you do skip certain steps, if you're getting the right answers and you're not photo mathing it, I'm okay with it, okay? Just to be real.
Everybody have it written down.
Preference?
Good answer, guys.
I can't say from over here.
Oh, gotcha. You want to come a little bit closer? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Is it cool to this with you? Are you okay with that? Yeah, it's awesome. Before I got my glasses, I couldn't see it all, to be honest. They were my best friend. I'm nearsighted for sure. And we can zoom in a little bit more too when we do the problems. Like I can write a little bigger too. I'm straight up math teacher, so sometimes handwriting can be a little messy. So if you ever need to see like it written again, that's fine too. Yeah. You're good. The key thing, I guess, to remember is anytime you got parentheses, distribute, which is just multiplying, goes first. If there are any like terms, you want to combine them, but because this one has a B, it doesn't really have a like term unless there was another one with a B. And then when you solve, you want to think of getting the letter by itself. So any numbers that are on the same side hanging out with the letter, you want to get rid of those.
Am I good to go to the next one?
Oh, yeah, because there's number 12 as well. So I was like, she can always do number 12 too if you want. The walls are kind of thin in this building too, as we created new classrooms. So if you need something repeated too, like let us know, we'll get it repeated. So for her first step, is distributive property. So maybe let them write down that first step and then go to the second one. So she's got 4 times 7. You could explain it to if you want, but a lot of people, depends on the person, but you're pretty much just doing multiplication. So anytime you got parentheses, basic multiplication facts, or just use your calculator. So 4 times 7 is 28. Okay, good. Drop down the R. 4 times 6, 24. Yep. Oh, yeah, I got you. Sorry, I probably couldn't hear. You want to tell them how you got the second parenthesis with the 21?
Okay, so for the second parentheses, you have a +3 and then a -7. So that just becomes a -21. Then you have a +3 and a -4R. So that just becomes -12R. Am I good to go on?
You guys feel good with the multiplication when she did some people call it like dipping because like an Oreo and milk. That's helps. It's been a long summer, so just ask questions as you get them, guys. We'll get it figured out. Oh, snap. There's a lot less than I remember. Usually I tell them like on the worksheet, if you understand it after the events or the odds, which was pretty good. Maybe just do some of the proportion ones. And then, yeah. You do always move on to the next one. So how did you get the 3?
I did +24 minus 21. That gave me 3. And then the way I got 16 is I added 28R.
Okay.
And then minus 12R. That gave me 16.
Good.
And then I
Good.
dropped down my 51.
Perfect.
And then since 3 was a yeah, so there was
Got it. Okay.
yeah, and then I dropped that down and I did 3 or 16R plus 3 minus 3 equals 51 minus 3. And that gave me 6R equals 48. And I divided that and R equals 3.
Yeah. So that game of opposites, if you have a plus, you want to do the opposite, which is a minus to cancel it out. And then when you do it on one side, you want to do it on the other. So like think of equations like a scale. You ever seen those old fashioned scales? Like not like the one you go stand on and weigh yourself, but the one like that. You want it to stay balanced. If you do something to one side, it's kind of tip over, you want to do it to the other so they level out. Yeah. How many people feel like equations are pretty familiar for them for the most part? Anybody like so kind of get there?
Can I go to the
Yeah. And like it's okay if you need a thumbs down too. I love the nonverbal stuff because honestly, we're all in this together, so sometimes I'm like, yeah, no. And that's okay too. So if you're feeling like, nope, on something, you can give me a thumbs down. That just means we need to go over that a bit more and nothing's wrong with that. So do you want to show number 12? She's like, no, I'm good. I just want to make sure it was good. You can always talk me through it too, and I can write it. It's up to you. You don't have to though, no pressure. She's like, I can't, I can do it. Yeah. I know people are like, oh, I don't want to be on the YouTube channel. I think it's kind of cool for them to hear somebody else's or see somebody else's handwriting or hear somebody else's voice. So it's up to you. This one's pretty similar. You're okay. You can talk through it or you can just do it and then I can talk through it either way.
Okay, so we're gonna get rid of the 8 right here, so we're gonna multiply it. And then we're gonna do the same thing down here, this one.
You got it.
So these cancel out. So it's gonna be 8x minus
You totally got this.
32.
Perfect.
And then we're gonna get rid of this too. So we're gonna multiply it. We're gonna do the same thing down here and multiply it. That cancels out. It's gonna be 2x minus 20.
You guys see how she took those numbers, those kind of like lonely numbers, and then multiplied them by both of these. And then this 8, she multiplied by both of these. So if there's a lonely number, you want to distribute it to the non-lonely numbers. Yeah, it's good.
And then we're gonna move this 2x over on this side. So we're gonna subtract it.
Good job.
Sorry, my handwriting is.
No, it's probably better than mine.
And then, so it's gonna make 6x. And then we're gonna move this 32 over on this side. So we're gonna add it. It's a negative.
Okay. So you kind of move everything at one time. I like that
Mhm.
method too. Okay. So you move your letters to the left and your numbers to the right. Is that how you do it, or do you move them all? Oh, I get it.
I just kind of
I
keep
get
it like whatever's easier. So it would like it stays a positive if I move the 2 over.
Oh, I
If
like
that
that.
makes sense.
So as long as your letters go to one side, looks like she's bringing her letters over to the right, that's fine. You could also bring the letters to the left. So it's your choice, which way you choose. Yeah, looks good.
And then, so negative 20 plus positive 32 is 12. And then you're gonna divide by 6 to get the x by itself. So it's gonna be 2 plus x.
Good. No, I think that's really good. I was gonna say, for those of you who are like, okay, I understood the like 2 part, but when she did both at the same time, maybe that confused me. You could also do it, like, she's 100% right. You could also, let's say you wanted to take it like with an extra step. You could be like, I want to move my letters to one side. I think I'm going to move them to the right. Did anyone move it to the left when they did their problem? Anybody move their letters to the left? Oh, how she did the first step? Yeah, I gotcha. So before we get there, let me write that out. I think my blue marker's done for. Let me try this one. 8 over 2. So this is just your classic cross multiply. So that's what she did. So the 2 distributed the x minus 10. I think Miss Chelsea and like how I used to do it was with the parenthesis around it when I taught 1A. And then the 8 gets distributed to the x minus 4. So she went right to bringing the 8 times the x, which is 8x, because there's no like number there. And then the 8 times the negative 4 which is the -32. Yeah, go for it.
On the worksheet, is it okay if we get decimals for the proportions?
You will, yeah. The proportions will be decimals. And then for this one, I think she went right to the 2 times the x, right? So that's the 2x. And then 2 times -10 is -20. So you can definitely show that step if that's how Miss Chelsea and Mr. George do it. That's how I do it, but I like how you went right to it as well. They're both fine. They're both good. And then Mr. George and Miss Chelsea, Miss George, did I say that wrong? Mr. George and Miss Chelsea, a lot of times they'll move the letters to the left. I've just seen that a lot in their classes. So if I have a positive 8x and I move it over here, do you guys remember what happens to it? You can kind of see what she did with the 2, right? So if it's a positive 8x and I want to cancel it, I have to subtract it so it'll cancel. So I have to subtract it on that side. So if you need a little bit more step-by-step, that might help. So 2 take away 8 is -6x. I just use my calculator for that step, but you could also just kind of use your integer rules if you have those. And then when you solve your equation, you get rid of your kind of lonely number first. So if you had like people over at your house, probably the person you weren't as close with would go home first, right? So like, I'm not really close with this person. They're probably gonna leave my house first. And it's a -20, so I'm gonna add the 20 over. And then if I do that in my calculator, I get the same thing as her, but it's negative, because my sides are opposite. Do I still get the same final answer? That's how we're gonna know, yeah. So we were talking earlier about different ways to do problems. This is 2 completely different ways to do your problem, right? The proportions can be a little tricky, but based on the ones we've done with equations, is there any looking at the examples, you're like, okay, I'd like to see one kind of like that? And just be honest, any of the odds you might want to see that look like, ooh, I think I could use that before I practice. Okay, well, there is the worksheet that's on the back. I would go ahead and, pick either evens or odds. You don't have to do the same, but if you're working with a neighbor on it or working with a partner, maybe you pick the same ones so you can check each other's work. There's a continuation on page 3, but I would say equations are kind of like the foundation of math. So if you don't remember a lot of them, ask questions. But the key thing to really remember is when you're doing problems that have a lot of steps, let me see if I can find one on your worksheet. If you're doing problems like on your worksheet that are like number 13, all those letters can be really confusing for a lot of people. There's like, I don't even know where to start. There's 3 X's in there, right? If you can just remind yourself of those 4 key steps, which are distribute, if there's parentheses, combine like terms, so things that have X with them, and then letters to one side, and then solve, you should be fine. But that is your foundation for when you do equations. So does anybody want to see any other ones on the odds? Or do you guys feel like you'd be okay to start on your worksheet? Feel okay with it? There is a extra credit paper. So there's a worksheet and an exit ticket for today, but if you feel like you're understanding after you've done the odds or evens and you want to look at the extra credit paper, every packet has all of the unit pages numbered on the bottom. And then towards the back, there's extra credit papers like this one that you can go ahead and work on. This is a group activity. So if you choose to do this one, you're player 1A, and then you would pick a partner to play with that's player 2A. And you would mark off 12 spaces that are your battleships, if you played Battleship before. And then your partner would go ahead and pick questions to solve. And then they would try to sink your battleship. So key thing is, if you're a person who can do math in your head, try not to like look too much at the person's thing, or you might rip this in half so you don't feel tempted to cheat, or try to sink their battleship intentionally. And then same thing with player 2A. So they would mark their battleships, and then the other partner would solve the problems to try to sink their ship. Does that make sense? Kind of. So this would be like, if I was playing M, she would do these problems to try to sink my ships up here. So I'd probably rip this in half if you're playing with someone. That way you're not tempted to, look at where their ships are. There's a place you can do your work. So that's just an extra credit thing. If you do get done a little early, you're like, I don't know if I want to work with someone on that. You could always just do the problems and try to see if you sink your own battleships, I guess. But yeah, that's just a little bit about the equations and proportions.